Imagine you dream of a rare blue-winged butterfly. The next morning, as you leave for work, that same species lands on your sleeve. An insect you have never encountered in your neighborhood. Is it mere coincidence or part of a subtler order of events? For Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung, moments like these pointed to a principle he called synchronicity, an acausal but meaningful connection between inner experience and outer reality. Over the next hour, we will trace how that idea emerged, how it changed within Jung's own lifetime, and how contemporary depth psychologists engage with or challenge it today. Carl Jung began his medical career at the dawn of the 20th century, an era stretching the boundaries of science. Freud had just introduced the unconscious. Einstein was reshaping ideas of space and time. Jung's clinical work at the Burghalsli Asylum in Zurich exposed into puzzling patient narratives, dreams that appeared to forecast subsequent events or mirror symbols reported by unrelated individuals. He found no satisfying explanation in the deterministic psychology of his day, where Wilhelm Wundt and Sigmund Freud interpreted psychic life mainly as an effect of earlier causes. Jung suspected another layer of order, one that knit the psyche to the world in real time. In the early 1920s, Jung began using the German phrase sinnvoll Koinzidenz, meaningful coincidence, in his seminars. He coined synchronicity formally in 1928, but would not publish a monograph on it until 1952. Why the delay? First, Jung felt he lacked both data and conceptual tools. Second, he was wary of ridicule. Psychology had only recently become an academic discipline. To argue for acausal connections invited charges of mysticism. Jung defined synchronicity as a principle which takes the coincidence of events in space and time as meaning something more than mere chance. The phrase acausal connecting principle signaled his conviction that these connections were not produced by one event causing another, at least not in any conventional linear fashion. To situate synchronicity, Jung relied on his earlier concept of the collective unconscious, a layer of the psyche containing trans-personal archetypes, primordial images shared across cultures and epochs. In a synchronous event, Jung claimed, an external situation and an internal image crystallize around the same archetypal theme. The iconic example is the patient who described a dream of a golden scarab, an Egyptian symbol of rebirth, just as a real scarab beetle tapped against the consulting room window. Jung recorded that the startling convergence allowed a therapeutic breakthrough. The patient, hitherto rationalistic, suddenly opened to symbolic thinking. For Jung, the scarab incident illustrated that the psyche and the material world can align through the deeper architecture of archetypes, bypassing causal chains. Between 1932 and 1958, Jung exchanged over 400 letters with Nobel-winning physicist Wolfgang Pauli. Pauli, grappling with quantum indeterminacy, was intrigued by Jung's reports of coincidences in clinical material. Their dialogue sharpened two aspects of synchronicity. First, they distinguished it from simple probability. If two events co-occur, chance alone may suffice. But when the co-occurrence carries subjective meaning, especially one linked to archetypal symbolism, Jung and Pauli labeled it synchronous. Second, Pauli pushed Jung to clarify how an acausal order might sit alongside physical causality. They speculated about an underlying unus mundus, a unified reality from which both psyche and matter derive. Although these speculations never matured into a testable theory, they gave synchronicity an intellectual home outside of pure speculation, connecting it tentatively to developments in 20th century physics. Jung finally published Synchronicity, an acausal connecting principle, in 1952, paired with Pauli's essay, The Influence of Archetypal Ideas on the Scientific Theories of Kepler. Reactions were mixed. Within analytic psychology, Some welcomed the essay as a long-awaited articulation of phenomena clinicians had observed for decades. Pregnancy dreams preceding conception, death omens coinciding with a relative's last breaths. Others complained that Jung's cases lacked rigorous controls and blurred anecdote with evidence in broader psychology. Behaviorists ignored the paper completely. Their laboratory protocols of stimulus and response had no room for a causality. Meanwhile, parapsychologists celebrated the text as a bridge document, seeing in synchronicity a respectable footing for ESP or psychokinesis research. Philosophers such as Karl Popper argued that synchronicity was unfalsifiable. If every coincidence can be defended by asserting hidden meaning, the concept becomes immune to disproof. Statisticians pointed out how humans underestimate the frequency of coincidences. With enough daily events and a bias for memorable matches, clusters are statistically inevitable. Jung anticipated part of this critique, insisting that meaningful coincidences felt subjectively numinous, not merely curious. Yet the boundary between statistical anomaly and archetypal significance remained blurry. Subsequent researchers attempted probability models to test whether reported synchronicities exceed chance, but consensus eluded them. After Jung's death, in 1961, the idea of synchronicity traveled divergent paths across the Jungian diaspora. In Zurich, analysts such as Marie-Louise von Franz preserved Jung's emphasis on archetypes. In London, Michael Fordham integrated object relations theory, viewing synchronicity less as cosmic alignment and more as a signal of ego-self dynamics in therapy. By the 1980s, archetypal psychologists like James Hillman reframed synchronicity as soul-making, a poetic orientation toward events rather than a literal mechanism. That shift softened the ontological claim, no assertion that the universe causes coincidences, while retaining clinical use. The therapist listens for parallels between patient narrative and real-time occurrences, treating them as prompts for insight. Contemporary depth psychologists working in academic settings adopt a cautious stance. Researchers at Pacifica Graduate Institute and the University of Essex, for instance, gather phenomenological data. When do clients label an event synchronous, and how does that label correlate with therapeutic outcomes? Early findings suggest that recognizing a synchronicity can deepen commitment to treatment and foster a sense of existential coherence, even when clients acknowledge probabilistic explanations. Meanwhile, neuroscience offers partial parallels. Predictive coding models show the brain continuously matching incoming sensory data to internal expectations. When an unlikely match occurs, say, the blue-winged butterfly, the resulting prediction error spikes dopaminergic reward circuits, heightening salience. Some scholars argue that these reward salience bursts underlie the felt significance of synchronicities without needing acausal metaphysics. Across journals like Spring, a journal of archetype and culture, and the Journal of Analytical Psychology, debate now centers on three questions. 1. Ontology. Is synchronicity a real, objective principle or a meaning-making lens humans apply to coincidence? 2. Method. Can hermeneutic, qualitative accounts be fruitfully combined with quantitative tests of probability? 3. Ethics. In clinical practice, does framing an event as synchronous empower clients to integrate experience or risk encouraging magical thinking that sidesteps responsibility? No consensus prevails, but the dialogue itself reflects Jung's pluralist intent. Psychology must hold the rational and the imaginal in constructive tension. Modern analytical therapists often adopt pragmatic guidelines, maintain phenomenological openness, allow clients to narrate coincidences without premature pathologizing, explore archetypal motifs, what mythic images surface around the event, assess function. Does labeling an event synchronous move the treatment forward, stall it, or provide escapism. Keep probabilistic literacy in view. Educate clients on coincidence frequency, reducing undue fatalism while honoring personal meaning. This balanced stance neither dismisses coincidence as noise nor elevates it to cosmic decree. From its birth in the consultation room to its dialogue with quantum physicists, synchronicity has traveled a winding path. Its value today may lie less in solving the riddle of causality and more in reminding psychology that human experience refuses strict compartments. Inner narrative and outer event intersect, sometimes eerily. Whether one views such moments as evidence of a concealed order or as cognitive pattern making, they open a reflective pause in the fabric of daily life, an invitation to ask, what story am I living? As long as that question remains vital, Jung's concept of synchronicity and the debates it provokes will continue to resonate with in-depth psychology.